Hey guys, welcome back to the Wrong End of the Snake question and answer after show period. Ryan and AMIR have graciously agreed to spend about another half hour with us. And I got to tell you, we could talk for like 4 hours. It's amazing to have you guys on, and thank you for that. But I'll let Tater start us off. Do you have any? Did you see any questions in the question and answer thing?
Yes, I did, but you know what? I'm going with the question I have because I've
Okay.
been dying to ask these guys this, and I really want to know. I keep going over and over about your guys' look, how you present yourself, all that kind of stuff. And in the age of COVID, which I don't like to get in a lot, but I think you guys have some experience here because I just saw you did a show at Third Encore, and I say show, that's what it was. That's what I saw on Facebook was a show with incredible visuals, incredible sound. You guys looking like you're at the top of your game. That's for me looking from the outside in. I don't know if you had a good show or not. It seemed fantastic to me. It kept my attention. Presented the band the way I always think it is. But I don't think there was an audience there, right? What was it like to play with some video screens and nobody in front of you, but you're giving it your all? I mean, what's that like? I know you do when you're doing videos and stuff, but it wasn't one song played over and over. You guys were playing live and had to pretend there was 10,000 kids screaming at you, and it seemed like that. But how actually was it?
It's tough. It's totally tough. I mean, you're asking because I think you really do know that it's going to be weird, right? I mean, as an engineer being on the side of the stage, you're doing monitors, you know that you're like, fuck. The band's kind of in hell because there's no noise. There's no big
vibe. There's no vibe, right?
Yeah.
There's no vibe.
Feedback.
Yeah, there's
no
no
feedback.
Yeah.
No feedback. It's very hard in between songs. It's very awkward. In the songs, I kind of feel like I'm playing in outer space. And that's kind of a weird, like, where's up and where is down, and you can't see anything out there except for the red light of a camera, and then it turns off, and you're looking for the other red light. It is. You have to be pro. You have to get your head out of that and try to have a great show. Focus on the meat and potatoes. Try to do the songs right. That's the most important thing because you don't have the crowd to play off of, and you know that doing a show is 50% playing off the crowd.
We feed off instant gratification. It just doesn't seem to be there with that kind of a setting.
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking. It's like doing a live television show, like being on David Letterman or Conan, or where you got to go out there and it's like, well, there's people out there watching you, but there's this like weird disconnect.
Yeah, and that's only one song. You kind of blow through it real quick. It's one song. Hey, how'd we do?
True.
True.
You play multitude of songs.
And there is a small audience there, which does help, but it's still nerve-wracking.
Yeah. I always try to make sure to do the song right. So whereas live, I might be a little bit looser and wanting to perform, and if I miss a note or something like that, or I don't do it as perfectly, it's not as big of a deal because you've got all the feedback and the noise of whatever venue you're in, and that's great stuff. But in those situations where you're streaming a show with no audience, there's zero forgiveness.
There's a microscope.
Zero.
You're under the microscope.
Totally.
Yeah.
Every little thing because it's so dry and
I mean, from a singer's perspective, I rely heavily, and every singer does. We rely on the room. We rely on the noise. We rely on the feedback to get the vocal sound to be the way that you need it to sound.
Yeah, that's right.
When you have none of that, it's literally like doing this. And so you have to get your voice to be the way you don't want it to sound like that. You want it to somehow you have to create a new voice. And I got to tell you, that was one of the times when we did the Edema show. I didn't know how to get my voice right. And so I actually didn't do the greatest job, and it really bothered me. But I took that into the Julian K show, knowing then I was like, okay, I got to go in there knowing that this is going to be really hard, and I got to focus on these things, and I got to figure out, I got to pretend like no matter what I do and no matter how hard front of house works, it's not going to come through that fucking, that it's not going to get converted to digital in a way that's friendly to me.
Right.
So I got to figure out how to do it. So in rehearsal, I had to train to figure out how I was going to get my vocal to at least come through correctly. And I think it ended up working. I'm not going to say I wasn't sweating fucking bullets before we went up there, but
Yeah, we actually hadn't played together in a while, and of course Elias.
We hadn't played 6 of those songs.
Yeah,
there
were 6 songs that we hadn't that were new.
Yeah.
So we were, prepping all of that and, getting that. And then, of course, having Elias come in, who he only knew 1 of the 10 songs. He'd only ever played 1 of the 10 songs with us.
Wow.
Before. So, but of course, he came in and, pretty much nailed that right out the gate. But we were really over preparing for this because we were really preparing for the worst. So it turned out that all of that was good, that we did that, because it definitely did come off better than we expected. And then we had the luxury as well. We have to really thank Larry and everyone over at More Studios for, allowing us creative freedom with the screens and all this. And they, what was her name? I'm sorry,
Jenna, yeah, which we're going to be doing some stuff with.
Yeah,
as well.
She went, we gave her some direction and, threw a lot of things at them, and they went out and they found all these great graphics, and, we talked to the light guy, and, we just kind of told them all our spiel, what we always tell everybody.
We made it a Julian K show.
Yeah, and we just told them these are all the things that, we were hoping to get, and, everything looked amazing already, and we figured it was going to be great, and it actually came out way better than we expected, all the way around. Not because we didn't think they were going to do great, but because we weren't going to
totally.
We weren't going to be pull it off, because it's really hard to go from 0 to 100. I'm sure you guys know.
If we could have gotten like 6 tour dates in first, I think we would have been amazing, because I would work out all the vocal issues, and we would work out the playing off each other issues, and Elias would be comfortable with the songs. And no, we had to, in rehearsal, figure out, well, live, I guess I might go like this, like the crowd might, and you have to just figure it all out.
Oh, man. I recently got in front of a console after, I don't even know, like 8 months I hadn't been in front of a console.
Wow.
I had some neck surgery right before COVID, and was planning to go back to work right in March. And so I had taken basically 5 months off prior to when COVID happened. So I was going on about 8 months that I hadn't been in front of a console, and I was just like, I felt so stupid. So I can imagine what you guys can feel. I was like, I don't even remember like what to do here. So yeah, it's going to be tough when people go back,
Yeah.
I feel like that every time I open up Pro Tools.
Totally. Me too.
No, I really feel like that every time.
Every time I start a mix, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm never going to get this done.
How does, when I open up Pro
Pooch
Tools,
knows, right?
I know. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Oh, that's so great, man. That's totally awesome.
It's like flying the fucking space shuttle, man. It's just
man,
Jesus Christ.
Hey, you guys.
Monsters of Rock cruise?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Is there going to be a Monsters of Rock cruise? Was that just promotion for it? Was that it?
Yeah, they do those every year. I know they're going to start one up next year, but that at the moment still is geared more towards 80s style bands, but that could change, and maybe they will start to incorporate some of these bands that are doing some of these streams. I hope they do, because we would love to do it.
Man, that sounds horrible to be locked up on a floating petri dish right now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
True. Not right now, but
maybe.
Yeah, let's wait till that gets cleared up. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That sounds awful.
Especially putting it like that. Yeah.
But anyway, hey, you guys earlier were talking about all of this. You guys are always on the cusp of new technology. Patreon, you starting your own Indiegogo, and all these kind of things that, like, almost always I kind of find out from you guys, which is funny. I feel like I'm the older dude that doesn't know shit, and the new kids know shit, then you guys know it, then I find out from you. What how do you guys do that? Like, what keeps you on the cusp of technology? Is it just something that you're always like looking at, for your business, or how does that work?
I think, especially with Foo as well, I think all of us are always constantly looking at a lot of different things. I know Ryan listens to a lot of podcasts and different things. And I mean, you can even listen to, what's the guy that's on Sunday?
Leo Laporte.
Leo
Laporte, the tech guy that we love.
The tech guy.
Yeah.
That guy's great. But I mean, obviously we do all that. You see a lot of stuff online. I mean, for me, I'm usually more nerding out on actual gear, like that creates stuff, music, and all of that. And of course, keeping up with Pro Tools and plugins and all the stuff of that. I mean, that's a full-time job in itself, just doing that. And Fu does that as well. So Fu and I kind of are always dealing with that. And now with doing all the streaming stuff, we had to really take a crash course on how to do it, period.
Right.
You know, and then asking friends, like, you know, what software they're using or hardware. And we've been using a Blackmagic ATEM, which is really great. It's just a small device, but it's a hardware device, and you can configure it in multiple different ways. And I mean, we didn't know what the fuck we were doing with it at first. I mean, we were just failing miserably when we started doing our Patreon streams. We kept going back to our phone because we couldn't get anything to work or whatever. And like, even today, Ryan's calling me up and saying, oh, the cameras won't stay on. And I'm like trying to figure out like why the cameras won't stay on, but the cameras are staying on. There's settings within them that if they're not hooked up to a computer, that yes, you can set the setting however you want, but when you plug the computer in, it stays on. But if it's not plugged into the computer, it will shut off at the whatever time that you set in the settings, right? So there's just always some stupid thing. You know what I mean? Like, it just never ends.
Always some preference.
Always something.
Yeah.
I have a
preference.
newfound respect for video guys, right? Like, I never understood like how important lighting is, and then just all of the tech behind getting it to look right is, man, I had no idea that those guys are doing that. When we go back to work, I'm going to be like, dude, you guys are awesome. I love you guys.
I think for me, it's funny that because I typically, where these guys are very much the technical and production side of this band, and it's a massive, massive job, and it's very important. And I'm a little bit more of the business and the new, like I'm the Indiegogo, you know, campaigns, Patreon, and sort of that boat is more of my deal. But we've come together a bit more on the whole, now that video has become a almost daily piece of our world. I've kind of, while I'm not highly technical, I'm no one will ever say that. I am, there's something about marketing and presentation and everything that I really, really get. And I've gotten much, much more into our studio and doing stuff here and the stuff, whereas I typically like to be action oriented. I like to tour, I like to perform, I like to create these things, I like to design things, blah, blah, blah. I've actually gotten more into creating content like this, which has made me like to record more and make me like more of the technical stuff more. And I don't know what it is. There's something about visual medium and performance that I kind of have to have, you know, and I dig it. And it's getting my brain to fire a bit more. And I'm really, really enjoying it, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
So let's dig in just real quick. Let's dig in. I'm pretty sure that's a Friedman guitar behind you there on the wall, is it not?
Yeah,
it is. And you know, Dave Friedman's a childhood friend of mine. I've known him forever.
We talked,
you know, from the Detroit area. But I want to go in just for a second, just because I want to geek out on this a bit. But Amir, even in your harder rock days with Rough Cut and everything, you've always had some iconic guitars. I mean, you had the one in Rough Cut, then you had like those UFO ones where the Jackson ones and all that stuff. Where did that? It seemed like you were flirting with design stuff way back before all that. Where did that come from? Especially those Jackson UFO things and that kind of stuff. Where did that come from?
Well, when I was a teenager going to the concerts that we spoke about earlier, there was a guitar player that stood out to me that did something that I hadn't seen any other guitar player do, and that was Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick. He had early on, he just had a lot of guitars, right? But he always had like these weird oddball guitars, you know, and I remember seeing him play an Ibanez Iceman, and believe it or not, that was my first guitar. Like, I don't know anybody that would get an Ibanez Iceman as their first guitar. No. I think that kind of says a lot, you know? And I think for whatever reason, that kind of was in my head, you know, from a very young age, even before I was playing guitar, that I just thought it was cool. And when I got in Rough Cut, at that time, people like at Jackson and stuff, people were painting guitars. They were doing things, and, you know, the bodies hadn't really gotten too crazy, although I had a star body that was kind of wacky, which was also one of my very early guitars. And, you know, my dad was a fighter, was a pilot in World War II. He flew B-17s. So I already had this fascination with fighter planes, and to my knowledge, no one had ever done that before I started doing the fighter plane graphics on guitars. You know, maybe someone had done a camouflage or whatever, I don't know, but the fighter plane thing definitely started with me, and it's really flattering to see that it's continued all these years. Still tons of guitar
Stood the test of time, yeah.
It has, yeah.
Still making guitars with like fighter plane graphics and stuff, and it's like, it's kind of cool because it's like no one did that before. So I started doing that, and then little by little I started getting into designing. You know, I designed a double neck with Jackson, which actually became a what do you call it? Not a prototype. The prototype was mine, but it became something they sold, like an actual product that they made. You know,
artist series or whatever, artist series. Or,
yeah, like they actually sold. A lot of famous people had them. It was really flattering to see all these people, you know, playing a guitar that I had a hand in designing.
That's awesome.
And but then, you know, after that, there was a period, and it wasn't until I got into Orgy again where I started getting into really weird guitars. I started using a Parker, which was really strange looking in the beginning, and I had these old rolling guitar synths, and of course with that band it was just kind of like the sky was the limit, and I just really wanted to do something really out there because I had the opportunity. And Jackson, even though Grover Jackson wasn't there anymore, they had some of the guys who still worked there came back to me and asked me if I would come back and possibly, you know, use some of their guitars because they were getting into these weird designs. And so I said yes, and I went back, and then we designed the Roswell Star, which was based on something that they had, but I took it to another level, and then we found these color chameleon paints where the color changed and all this stuff. So then we started doing that, and then I designed the Disruptor guitar, and everything was really great and amazing. We had these really cool guitars, but then the company kind of fell apart. And so it never really got to the point where we were going to do like artist models and sell them and all of that. It just kind of fell apart. And around that time, oddly enough, I was with Dave Friedman. There was a full circle here, how this comes back to Dave Friedman, because he built our racks in Orgy. Those big, you know, with all the stuff that we were doing in Orgy, we had like literally like studios on wheels to make these sounds that we were doing, right? But Dave, I'm pretty sure that's where I met Eric from Yamaha, and that's how that relationship started. And then we started building signature models for both of us. And it was based off something a little more conventional, and I happen to have one.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Put it here. I don't know if you're going to see this very well, but it's based off more of a, you know, almost like a Les Paul-ish type body.
Les Paul
right?
Jr. kind of looking, yeah.
But we did a lot of cool stuff. We were all into like faceting back then, and so we did that, and then the barcode graphic for the
Oh yeah.
Super simple though, single pickup. And
Ryan, did you have any design input on any of those?
Yep.
Yeah. And there's little details and stuff that I would grab from like science fiction types of stuff. I'm a super into Star Wars, Star Trek, and all this kind of stuff, especially in Orgy, Blade Runner, all this kind of stuff. So I would usually come with like, you know, honestly, it's kind of funny, alien symbols and shit like that we would think were really cool, that we would incorporate into some of the design. And you know, it could be like a little thing on a fret, or like a little symbol on the back, or something or a symbol on the top. We'd kind of find inspiration in these different. I would collect encyclopedias of like different alien languages that are fictional, of course, and we would just get elements and stuff that we thought were cool and incorporate that into our aesthetic and our way of thinking.
And
you know,
and not just the aesthetic, but the actual build of the guitar and the way they were designed. There are specifics about it that work for what we do. Like those guitars are baritones.
Yeah.
They're baritone guitars. The pickups are actually specially wound. They're not just like stock pickups. They were actually made. I went through tons and tons of pickups with DiMarzio at the time. Larry made them for me custom. So there really isn't any guitars out there like that. And they only did a run of maybe 100 of each or something like that. 2 different colors. So they're pretty rare, pretty coveted now. But we still both use them because they really are great tools. Occasionally I bust the Jacksons out, but they've just become so special, and I just don't want anything to happen to them because they're, you know, they're so rare. And I played one on the Linkin Park thing. I'm sure you probably remember that. The black, I brought the black Roswell Star for that. But I don't usually use them very often, just occasionally, maybe in a video or something.
Fantastic.
Totally cool.
Thank you.
And so now coming
pretty
full circle, you are using Friedman's amps now, right? Like he's designed a bunch of custom amp. He has a custom amp line that I know everybody's talking about how good it is.
I literally stumbled upon his amps when I was at Guitar Center, and although I've known Dave for years and knew that he modded amps and all that kind of stuff, I actually, when the amps actually came out and were already like selling, I didn't even know. So I'm a shitty friend.
Number one,
but you found out, so it's good.
Yeah, I found out and I plugged into it and I was like, oh my God, this sounds amazing. Is this Friedman as in Dave Friedman?
Yeah.
So I literally texted him and I was like, sent him a picture and I'm like, did you make this amp? And he's like, yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my God, all right, we got to talk because this is amazing. And then with the whole guitar thing, he was getting into guitars, you know, starting to build guitars, and I'd been working with Grover when he was doing some GJ2 stuff, which was his kind of custom line. And it was starting to look like maybe Dave and Grover might get together to do the guitars for Friedman. So I kind of definitely stuck my nose in there and tried to, you know.
That's awesome. Yes.
Get them together. I had one of my GJ2s with me when I went to try the Friedman amp, and Dave was like, hey, that guitar sounds really good. He's like, what's this guitar? I'm like, Grover made it. He's like, oh. Yeah. I'm like, you should be doing your guitars with Grover. And he's like, I've been talking to a few people. I'm like, I think you should do it with Grover. And, you know, one thing led to another. I'm not saying that it was me that did that, but definitely, I definitely tried to push that because Grover's always been really good to me and to us and over the years. And he's an amazing guitar builder. But I think with the overall detail work of Dave and Grover being together, I mean, they really have made something extremely special. Their guitars are of exceptional quality.
Amazing. Yeah.
Now,
you know, it's funny.
Go ahead.
My, coming up in the same time period that you did, the two names that always came up in great sounding stuff, were Bradshaw and Friedman. Every single time that I was working with a band, I remember, I can't remember what band it was, but it was like, oh, it's just a JCM 800. And then I dove into it more and they were like, well, it's a Friedman modified JCM 800. And I went, okay, so this guy Friedman knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Dave is a small genius.
Yeah.
When it comes to this stuff, it's always amazing to me how he just knows what's up. Even with the guitars too. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what, when we were 16 doing beer bongs off the back porch at his house and going off the back porch and jumping in his pool, I never would have known that. So I never would have thought that in the future.
I wonder what that story is like. Do you know, Tater? Did he go to electronic school, or how did that happen?
Right after high school, I was on the road and I lost track of Dave, and as far as he was 1 year younger than me, so I don't know how that all came about. He was just playing guitar. We all played in bands, and then next thing you know, I had known Dave. But we never put two and two together.
Whoa.
Until we were sitting on a couch at at third encore, and all of a sudden it hit us, and we were like, "Holy jeez," you know?
Wow.
Oh, that's
Yeah. So it was kind of weird. I looked the same. He looked a lot different. But I just know a lot of your guys' fans and supporters are going to be watching this. You guys have such great, loyal fans. You know, I'm friends with a few of them, like Tanya and all those people. They're just good people. You know, we become friends with, and they're really fans of yours. But what do you, in this downtime, you might not have an answer, and you can say we don't know, but what is Julian K? What is the plans coming up for when we hit the ground running? Because you know when we get going, it's going to be fast and furious. And if I know you two guys, you're both prepared for this when it's going to hit. So what is Julian K's a little bit bigger plans, and what do you see when we get rolling here? What are you guys going to do? What do you have in store for your fans? If you can, if it's a secret, keep it a secret. You don't have to divulge anything here, but what's the plan?
We're already tentatively booking some dates for next year. We've been slowly buying lighting packages. So literally just buying them. We're not renting them. We're just buying them. And we're working with our original lighting director from Orgy, Martin Phillips, who's, done things as awesome as the Daft Punk pyramids. And I mean, this is like pretty rad stuff. So we're playing smaller places, clubs and theaters, but we now have 24 lights in our show. Like you can imagine adding that to a club system synced up with everything. The idea and the concept is I'm not coming out of this fucking COVID bullshit laying down. I'm fucking coming out with nuclear fucking weapons only.
Nice.
So I want photon torpedoes armed and ready. I want to come out with a full-on electro live performance. I want to come out with production that people are scratching their heads going, how the fuck did these guys do this? What is going on? And what they don't know or may not know is that we've been methodically adding to everything we're doing every tour. We have a little bit of a budget, a little bit of line item right there that goes into continuing to grow the show bigger and bigger. And I don't care if we show up to a venue and 100 people come in fucking Saskatchewan or wherever it is that we play. I want to fucking melt their faces. And it's become a bit of an obsession or a goal of mine or of ours actually, that I think that I just don't really want to do this if we're not becoming better every time. We're not bringing more of a surprise every time. I don't fucking care what the budget is. I don't fucking care. I don't want to hear any of it. I want to just do new fun stuff, because at the end of the day, when we play a show and new lights come off behind us and the crowd's like, fuck, I feel fucking awesome. Like it feels great, you know? And I'm enjoying this more and more, as I've said many, many times. So that is our goal. We want to come out of this surprising everyone that we aren't kind of limping. I want to come out with like, a very unexpected level of a show.
I love that you guys want to put on and give the people something different in those smaller venues they go to, and it's always the same lights there. It's always the same. Give them something different.
I want to do overkill. I want to give people that come to see us. I actually think, and okay, this could kind of suck, but I think that the ticket range that we're in is going to be pretty affordable for a lot of people. I think that there's a chance that we might be able to go out with $25 tickets, $20 tickets, $30 tickets, and do really, really well with a fucking high-level production show. Sure. We actually might have a bit of an opportunity. That's where my brain's at. And I think that we might also, I think the herd's going to be thinned a little bit too. Yeah. So I think that, and again, this is all, it sounds a little bit maybe sociopath or mean of me, but I just want to go out there not weak, not limping. I want to go out there and over-deliver to our fans. And I want people to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what you're saying, is you want to go out and put out the most amazing show in the world. And rightly so, you guys your ticket prices should be higher for putting out that amazing show, for sure. Yeah. So that's amazing.
And I just think it's weird that you're, and I so respect your business sense, but I just think it's weird when you talk to everybody else, they're like, well, when we go out, we're cutting back and we're going to have to do this and this and this. And you are thinking the exact opposite. Hell no. We're adding.
We're doing more.
Yeah. We're doing this. And that's the only time I hear this. And I just like the enthusiasm that's rubbing off on me.
I want that enthusiasm to rub off on the people that come. Like I said, I'm prepared for, I'm just throwing out the bad number of 100. I'm prepared for that to happen. But if we can, every single person there is going to have their phones up.
Yep.
You know, every single person there is going to go like, oh my God, Julian K transported me. I had a horrible fucking year. It was my first concert back. The tickets were affordable. I'm stoked. We went, those guys did, I felt like the aliens landed. That's the feeling that I want, you know? So that's really important to me.
That's awesome. Hey, well, listen, guys, we've run out of time, but
again, there it went.
Dang it.
I love you guys. You guys are the best.
We could talk to you forever. So
I know. I mean, that's the thing is we could. And honestly, we should have you guys back on and continue this conversation.
Do it.
Because
do it.
you know, I want to learn from you guys about how you do all this. You know, we've kind of just like touched the surface, you know, and
Sure.
Not even a scratch, just a touch.
Just a touch. So
just the tip.
just the tip. Anyway,
I don't think we got to one of our actual questions.
Yeah, I think we only got to one of our questions, but yeah.
We have to start talking about airline points and how we do all that.
Oh,
Yeah,
totally,
oh, God.
dude. We got to get into that.
Another business in the business, yeah.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Well, anyway, thanks for coming, guys. We love you,
Yeah.
and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay, thank you guys. Love you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bump my elbow.